Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever met someone new, exchanged a few words, and the next moment, their name completely slips your mind? It's super frustrating, right? You might even feel embarrassed to ask again. Well, don't worry. This happens to almost everyone at some point. Forgetting names is actually very normal, and there's a real reason behind it. Your brain isn't being lazy. It's just wired in a way that makes remembering names a bit tricky sometimes. In today's video, we're going to explore something we all experience but rarely understand: forgetting people's names. I'll be sharing 9 real psychological reasons why our brains struggle to remember names, and at the same time, I'll give you some easy and practical tips to fix it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why it happens and how to stop it from happening so often. So, stay tuned, because these insights are not only interesting, they're backed by real science. 1. Your brain is busy. When you meet someone new, your brain is not just hearing their name. It's working overtime trying to process everything about that person. In just a few seconds, it notices their face, their expressions, their body language, the tone of their voice, the way they dress, and even subtle things like how confident or approachable they seem. Your brain is basically running a mini social analysis to figure out if this person is friendly, trustworthy, or important to remember. And here's the catch. While it's focusing so much on all these details, it often pushes the person's name to the back of your mind. The name, after all, is just a label, and labels are low priority for your brain when it's busy evaluating a whole human being in real time. That's why even right after being introduced, you might completely forget the name. Your brain was simply too busy doing its other important work. So next time it happens, don't feel bad. It's not your memory. It's just how our brains are wired to prioritize social information over names. 2. Stress blocks memory. When you meet someone new, it's normal to feel a little nervous or anxious. Maybe your heart races, your palms get sweaty, or your mind starts overthinking what to say. But here's the thing. When your body is in this stressed or anxious state, your brain isn't working at full memory capacity. Stress actually triggers the release of certain hormones, like cortisol, which can make it harder for your brain to take in and store new information, including names. So even if the person clearly says their name, your brain might struggle to write it down in your memory because it's too busy handling the stress of the situation. That's why sometimes you walk away from an introduction and immediately think, wait, what was their name again? It's not that you're forgetful. It's that stress temporarily blocks your memory, making names much harder to remember. The calmer and more relaxed you are, the easier it is for your brain to remember names. 3. Names are abstract. Have you ever noticed that it's much easier to remember a face, a place, or even an action than someone's name? That's because names are completely abstract. They don't come with a picture, a sound, or a movement that your brain can attach them to. When you see someone's face, your brain automatically notices patterns, the shape of their eyes, their smile, or the way they move. But a name is just a string of sounds or letters. It doesn't give your brain anything concrete to latch onto. That's why, even if you hear it clearly, your brain can struggle to make it stick. Names are like floating labels with no picture attached, and humans are wired to remember things that have meaning, emotion, or visual association more easily than plain words. So forgetting names isn't because your memory is weak. It's just that names are abstract, and your brain naturally finds them harder to store. 4. No repetition. One of the simplest reasons we forget names is that we often don't repeat them after hearing them the first time. Imagine someone tells you their name, and you just nod politely and move on. Your brain barely gets a chance to register it. Memory works like a filing system, and repetition is the key to making the file stick. When you say the name out loud, use it in conversation, or even silently repeat it to yourself. You're giving your brain extra chances to store it in long-term memory. Without that repetition, the name remains in your short-term memory for only a few seconds and then slips away. That's why people often say, "I know I just met them, but I already forgot their name." Repeating the name is like planting a seed in your brain. The more you say it or think about it, the stronger it grows and the easier it is to recall later. 5. You're distracted. Sometimes the reason you forget someone's name has nothing to do with your memory. It's simply that your brain was distracted at that moment. Maybe your mind was wandering to a work problem, scrolling through your phone, or noticing other things around you while someone was introducing themselves. Our brains can only fully focus on one thing at a time, and when attention is divided, new information like names doesn't get properly recorded. It's kind of like trying to listen to a friend while the TV is blasting. Your brain hears it, but it doesn't really store it. That's why even after a clear introduction, you might walk away thinking, "I'm sure I just heard their name, but it completely slipped my mind." To remember names better, it's important to be fully present when meeting someone. Even if it's just for a few seconds, your brain needs that focus to actually lock the name in. 6. The name is unfamiliar. One big reason we forget names is simply that some names are unfamiliar or hard to pronounce. Our brains are much better at remembering things that feel familiar or easy to process. When you hear a name that you've never encountered before, your brain has to work extra hard just to make sense of it. Difficult spellings, unusual sounds, or names from different cultures can feel foreign to your memory system, so it doesn't stick as easily. This is why you might meet someone, hear their name clearly, and still forget it a few minutes later. Your brain simply hasn't built a strong connection yet. The more you repeat the name, or link it to something familiar, the easier it becomes to remember. Think of it like meeting a new word in a language you don't know. The first few times, it slips away, but with practice, it starts to feel natural. 7. Short attention span. Another reason we forget names so easily is that our short-term memory can only hold information for a very brief time, usually just a few seconds. If you hear someone's name only once and don't focus on it, your brain might never transfer it into long-term memory. It's like trying to catch water with your hands. If you don't grab it firmly, it slips right through. In today's fast-paced world, our attention is constantly divided. Notifications, thoughts, or even small distractions can pull your focus away just at the moment you're being introduced. That tiny lapse is enough for your brain to forget the name immediately. To beat this, experts suggest actively listening and repeating the name mentally or out loud right after hearing it. This gives your short-term memory a chance to save it and eventually move it into long-term storage. 8. Overthinking social rules. Another reason we forget names so easily is that sometimes our brains are too busy thinking about how to act rather than who we're meeting. When you meet someone new, you might start worrying, should I smile? Should I shake hands? What do I say next? This social overthinking takes up mental energy that could have gone into remembering their name. Our working memory has limited capacity, and when it's filled with concerns about manners, politeness, or impressing the other person, there's little room left to store the new name. That's why even if someone clearly tells you their name, it can vanish from your mind almost immediately. The trick is to slow down, focus on the person and their name, and let social worries fade into the background. When your brain isn't distracted by overthinking, it can store names much more easily. 9. Interference from other names. Finally, one of the sneaky reasons we forget names is something called interference. Our brains can get easily confused when we meet multiple people in a short period of time. For example, if you've just met 3 or 4 new people, your brain is trying to store all their names at once. Sometimes, It mixes them up, swaps them around, or simply pushes one aside to make space for another. This is why you might confidently remember one person's name, but completely blank on the next one, or accidentally call someone by the wrong name. It's not that your memory is bad. It's just that your brain is juggling too many labels at the same time. To avoid this, try linking each person's name to a unique feature or repeating it a few times during the conversation, so your brain can keep the names separate and easier to recall later.